No one can actually understand what this feels like unless they go through it themselves. There's different degrees that people have of losing somebody. But when it's violently like this for no reason, and when I saw that, it felt like my guts were being ripped out.
No, you can't do that. I didn't do anything.
We know he did it. This guy was a monster.
Mercy, kill my baby child!
Joe, we charge you now. There's no body. It's all circumstantial.
Joey said to me, Mom, he drank the whole bottle of vodka that morning.
That monster knows where her body is, and he's never gonna tell us.
Just put the gun down, honey. Joe.
Get back, Elaine.
And I thought he was going to shoot me. We were living in Kent, Washington, and everything seemed perfect. We were going to work every day. The kids would ride the bus home.
Our family was very happy and very safe when we were all together. We didn't feel like anything could break us apart.
Then we started hearing these reports of the Green River serial killer. He had been picking up prostitutes and dumping them in the Green River. And we had just heard that they found a body not too far from our house, like 2 miles away. And we said, we got to get out of here. We got to go where it's safe.
Oh my. Look at it, kids.
In 1985, we moved up to Bothell, Washington, which was about 20 miles north of Seattle. We found a house, 2.5-acre parcels with wooded area behind the house. I thought it was beautiful.
What do you think, Brent?
I don't know. It looks kind of creepy.
There was a foreboding sense just because of the look of the house. And like the rest of my family, we all kind of felt like, you know, it had this aura about it that was just evil.
You know what? I'm sure it'll be just fine. Just might take some getting used to, okay? Hey, Brent and Joey, I bet you anything these woods are full of game.
My husband, Joe, was a hunter and a fisherman. He loved John Wayne, and he thought he was a cowboy.
We'll never have to buy meat again.
Yeah, Joey and me can help you carry your gear, Dad. But you'll have to stay at home with Mom, Mikey. Keep her safe.
When we had moved to Bothell, Brenda was 12 years old. She was very independent. She had always wrestled around with the boys and played with Dad. And she was in gymnastics and played soccer. She was the goalie.
Uh-oh. 7 years bad luck.
Don't be silly, honey. It's just an accident. You can get a new mirror. Come on, you kids, go inside. Find something to clean this mess up.
I don't know, Elaine.
He said, I've got a funny feeling about this. He says, I can't protect you guys here. And I said, oh, Joe, you're just exaggerating. It'll be fine. We're safe. It's a quiet neighborhood.
You're not a cop anymore, Joe.
Joe really missed being a deputy. So I was telling him, you got to get another job. So he went to work as a car salesman in Bothell, Washington. I had been working for the VA Medical Center in downtown Seattle. So when we moved to Bothell, I transferred to the FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency there in Bothell. It was only 10 minutes away from our house.
I think I got you now.
And Brenda was very protective of her two brothers. She felt like she was Mikey's mother. She said, that's my baby. She said, Mom, I don't need a babysitter anymore. I can be home for a half an hour. The boys get off the bus at 3:30, so I'll be fine.
Please, Mom, I know I can do it.
Well, you'll be all alone with the boys till I get home. Sure you're okay with that?
Sure.
Well, okay. But don't let me regret it.
Thanks, Mom.
Brenda would get off the school bus at 2:30. She would walk home, pick up the mail from the mailbox. She'd put it on the bar when she'd come in. And if Kanga was in the house, she would let Kanga out or bring the dog in. She was very responsible. I could depend on her. Brenda could do her homework in 10 minutes because she wanted to finish before General Hospital came on. So I would call her at 5 to 3, and then she would watch General Hospital. The boys would come home at 3:30. She'd give them a snack. She'd give them cookies or popcorn, and they would watch TV until I got home at 4.
They call it the work of the Green River Killer. Probably one man who has murdered 13 young women.
The Green River Killer was all over the TV. It seemed like every week they were finding a new body. It just kind of became almost commonplace for us as kids.
Hey, kids.
The murders started
Hey,
in
Mom.
1982.
We found another one today. Another body.
They had said it usually was prostitutes that the Green River serial killer was targeting, but they weren't for sure if he had changed his MO.
This one was out in the woods, too. That makes 15.
Brenda, she was always alert whenever anything on the news came out about the serial killer and the bodies they found.
Can you switch that off?
But I want to watch it.
No, but I don't want you to worry about it. Okay, kids, let's get washed up for dinner.
It seemed like we were all very happy, even with the reports of the Green River Killer on the TV all the time.
Police. The victims are similar. Runaways, very young, and
We never changed anything in the way we treated our children because we had always taught them about strangers in the neighborhood. They always knew that there were predators out there. Joe kept his pistol where the kids could have access to it if they ever needed it.
1982. And since then, an army of detectives have been unable to crack the case.
Protection was a huge theme with my father because he couldn't wait to get me into the woods and teach me about guns and living on the land. And he would reiterate time and again, we need to protect what's ours.
Right, target practice. Get around behind me. I'm gonna show you what to do when the gun's unloaded. Okay, so you put the gun in a stable position.
D-O-G. Dog. C-A-T. Cat.
Hey, your mom, she called for a plumber. Can you let me in?
My mom didn't tell me about any plumber.
She rang this morning?
Brenda said my mother didn't call a plumber. And he put his hand on the door and tried to push it in.
Go away! I have a gun! My dad will be home any minute and he's a dog!
Being raised in a deputy sheriff's home, she was always aware of strangers. When we had got home that night, Joe had called the police.
Your daughter's a brave girl.
Don't I know it?
What about this Green River killer? Could this be him?
Well, we're not sure there's a link yet. We think there may be a pedophile ring in the local area.
I was actually very proud of my sister, the way she handled that situation. And the next day when I went to school, I remember, also being asked about, it was your sister who, reported these guys. And I had a sense of pride, just the way she handled it.
After that, Brenda was afraid to go to the mall by herself.
Are you done?
Yeah.
They look great.
Are you serious?
I didn't know what to pick out for a 12-year-old. And anything I picked out, she didn't like.
Well, how about these?
So I asked the sales lady to pick out something for a 12-year-old. So she picked out these red stretch pants with a red plastic belt.
Mom, I love them. You're the best.
Oh, you look so grown up.
That day, I went to work. And I called them at 5 to 3, and there was no answer. And I got a funny feeling like something was wrong, but I thought maybe she went to Annie's house, her friend that she played soccer with. And I couldn't remember Annie's telephone number, so I raced home to get there by 4, and I walked into the house, and the boys are sitting in front of the TV, watching TV. I said, "Where's Brenda?" And they turned around and they said, "We don't know. She wasn't here when we got home."
When we came home, we didn't see our sister, and that really wasn't unusual because she had lots of friends. She was the most popular girl in school. So, being as young as we were, we just assumed she was with her friends.
I jumped in the car, ran down to Annie's house to see if she was there to take him to soccer. And Annie said, "She's not here." And so I turned around, went back, called my husband.
Joe, Brenda's not here.
And he said, "Go out to the soccer field, see if she got a ride somehow," and went out there. So I drove out there, and the coach came up and said, "Where's Brenda?" And I said, "Did she get a ride here? Because she wasn't home." And he said, "No, and she never misses soccer practice." So I turned around and ran back home. I looked, and the new bedspread I bought was gone on her bed.
Joe, she didn't show up for soccer. I can't find her.
September 19th, 1985, me and my brother came home on the bus, and when we came home, we didn't see our sister.
And the bedspread was gone on her bed. So I called the sheriff.
No, she hasn't been gone 24 hours. But she would never leave her brothers on their own.
At that time, a child had to be missing 24 hours before they thought she was kidnapped.
She's only 12 years old.
Hi.
Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Munson?
Yeah.
After our neighbors found out Brenda was missing, they came over.
I'm very sorry, but whatever it is, this isn't a good time.
But I need to tell you about a stranger.
What stranger? Tell me everything you know. The police say she has to.
Mrs. Munson said that this white Toyota with this monster of a man was took up the whole front seat of the car. And he wouldn't move from her driveway. So he finally moved, went down the street, parked by where her daughter would be getting off of the bus.
He was watching the kids.
So that afternoon, when Brenda was getting off the bus, Mr. Munson decided to go back and check to see if this stranger was back again. And sure enough, he parked at the bus stop when he was walking behind Brenda when she got off the bus.
Did Brenda make it into the house? Well, I have to speak to everyone on the street. Maybe they saw something too. I'm looking for my daughter. She's missing.
Mr. Bonadori said, "I was out cutting my grass, and at 10 to 3, and he said, I heard your front door slam, and he said, I heard somebody say no. And he said, I thought you were running through the house playing with them.
Oh, my baby girl.
I felt I was in a nightmare. I had to tell myself, no, it's not a nightmare. This is a reality. And I couldn't fall apart because I had to be strong. And I had to hope against hope that she would be found.
Ellie? Did you call the sheriff's department?
Yes, but they're not taking it seriously.
Okay, I'll call the sheriff myself.
Joe talked to the dispatcher again. He says, I'm an ex-deputy sheriff. This is not a runaway child. She's missing. She's been abducted. So they patched him through the sheriff.
I thought that it was possible that maybe my sister had been taken by the Green River Killer. I hoped it wasn't true.
I prayed that it wasn't the Green River Killer that had taken her, because then I knew for sure that she wouldn't be alive.
We got the license plate from Mr. Munson. The owner of the white Toyota is actually a guy, an unemployed guy. We're on our way to talk to him again right now.
His name was Michael Green, and he lived 20 miles north of us. At 11 o'clock, detectives drove out to Michael Green's house. He had been living with his wife and his mother-in-law, and his father-in-law.
Sheriff's office, ma'am. Is Mike Green here? Just want to ask him a couple of questions.
They waited a half an hour. They felt so helpless because they didn't have a search warrant when they went to the house, and so they couldn't technically go into the house. They actually thought that he was holding her hostage in the bedroom because he hadn't come out for such a long time. And finally, when he came down the hall and talked to the detectives, then they said, there was a girl came up missing today, the Gere house. You were reported in the neighborhood.
You mind telling me what you're doing out there?
I was just looking at houses. Yeah, me and Diane like the neighborhood. We're thinking of buying a place over there, isn't that right?
Is that right, ma'am?
Yes, we've driven around there before a couple of times.
So, what's this all about?
A little girl went missing in the brothel area today.
Oh, that's just terrible.
Mind if I take a look around the car?
Sure. Go ahead.
His car was totally clean, antiseptic clean. So there was nothing in his car.
You cleaned this recently?
Sure. I take care of my car.
Sorry. Okay. Thanks, Mr. Green. Good night.
They had a gut feeling that he had taken her, but they had no probable cause to charge him.
I don't like him.
Me either.
I kept thinking she was too valuable to be killed immediately, and that if anybody had taken her, they probably would have sold her, because at the time they were abducting women and selling them into slavery in other countries.
Mrs. Gere?
Did you find her?
No. Look, we've spoken to Gere and checked his vehicle.
He says he was looking at houses in the neighborhood. His wife is backing him up.
So what now? This man could have my daughter. He could be the Green River Killer. What else are you going to do?
They started searching all around our house. They were like 2-3 miles out. I held out all hope that she was alive. We used to play a game with Brenda and Kanga. She used to play hide and seek. And I'd tell Kanga, I'd say, go find Brenda, go find Brenda. So I got up at 2:30, took Kanga out. I said, go find Brenda.
I said, go on, Kanga, you go find Brenda.
And she's sniffing. She goes north. The Bonadori family was just north of us. And she's sniffing. Thinking any kind of lead that we could get, anything, we had to act on it. Anybody was a suspect. Everybody's a suspect.
Mr. Bonadori said that he heard a loud bang and someone shouting no at 10 to 3, but we only have his word for it. I mean, we don't really know these people, do we, Joe?
Thing I can't get out of my head. Is why didn't Munson tell us right away when he saw that creep in the street? He picked up the Bonadori girl. She stayed at their place till the cops came. If he'd done the same for Bren, she'd still be here.
And since we were new to the neighborhood, we didn't know all our neighbors. They were strangers, and so they were suspects, too.
I hoped my sister was alive, but like my dad said, you know, if you don't find him in 24 hours, it's not a good sign, and I just kind of felt lost. I mean, helpless.
Joe had blamed himself because he should have been home that day. Instead, he went to work. That was his day off. So he blamed himself from the day that Brenda was taken. So he just drank himself to a stupor, and finally I told him, I said, you're no help to us this way. You're not going to find Brenda this way.
I always knew my dad was a heavy drinker, but after this incident, he drank more and more. And I noticed that he was two different people when he was drinking and when he wasn't.
We're not gonna find her. She's gone.
Oh, Joe.
Feels like someone's ripped out my heart. I died today. I died.
I realized that he was not going to be any good to me to help find Brenda. I had to be the one to pick up the slack, be the strong one for my two sons. Our house was like a circus. The head of the search party was constantly coming in. He's saying, we're getting reports, hundreds of leads every day. The way I deal with any kind of stress, I work. I'm a workaholic. My friend Leslie helped. All these reports started pouring in.
I'll tell the police right now.
I just thought it was my responsibility to do everything because I knew I was the best one to do the best job to find my daughter.
Police in Washington State believe they found the remains of another victim of the so-called Green River Killer. The murders began in the summer of 1982, and since then an army of detectives...
And all of a sudden, a body's been found. We all just held our breath. We froze. We just hoped it wasn't Brenda.
Hello? Yes?
It's not her, Elaine. Relax. It's not Brenda.
So 3 months go by and we're just at our wits' end. My friend brings over this psychic and wanted a piece of clothing from Brenda, so I gave her one of Brenda's shirts. And this was a reputable psychic. She had found a lot of missing children.
She's being held by two men in an old farmhouse near the Oregon border.
Sheriff, please. Oregon. She's in Oregon.
Slow down, Elaine. Slow down. Is it Brenda?
She's being held by two men near the border in Oregon.
Okay, hang tight. I'm gonna reach out to the guys up in Oregon and have them check it out. Sit tight.
He called the sheriff's department down there, and they knew exactly where that house was. When the detectives finally called me after they went to the house, they told me that it was an old couple there, but she wasn't there. My heart just fell in my chest. So at that time, Michael Green took off.
It's Mike Green.
I knew it had to be him. It was just kind of common sense that it had to be him. It was too coincidental. He had fled. He had taken off and fled. He needed a car, so he had thrown a woman over an embankment outside of the University of Washington, stole her car, robbed a convenience store at knife point.
Where'd he go?
There are sightings in Colorado. We've issued an APB on the vehicle. Now, of course, you could ditch the car, switch the plates. Anyway, if our colleagues find anything out, they find him, you guys are going to be the first to know. Promise.
Since Michael Green had fled Washington, then the FBI could be called in. So that was a big help to the sheriff's department. But we had so many people through after Brenda disappeared. There were about hundreds of fingerprints on the rail going up to her room. They looked at every fiber in her carpet. No blood stains, nothing. Joey, my 11-year-old son, he's saying, why doesn't the police go pick up Michael Green? He couldn't understand why they couldn't go pick up Michael Green and make him talk and tell what he did with Brenda.
What's this, honey?
In case Michael Green comes back.
My brother slept with a butcher knife under his pillow because he felt a lot of fear.
6 years old. So they were in survival mode. By now, I'm losing all hope of finding Brenda alive. And I'm thinking, Joe was right. She's gone. She's gone. I was in denial of her being gone, being dead. But I was losing hope.
Got it? Are you sure? Is it a good idea to lie to her?
And I decided to call Diane Green because I knew it had to be him. I had to make her understand that he did this to Brenda.
This is Elaine Gary. I know your husband was in our house. I know your husband was in our house. I just want you to know that we have his hair. We have his fingerprints. I know that he has her. So you just have him tell us what he did with her.
And she said, oh, Michael couldn't do something like that. He loves little children.
Where are you, Mike?
Denver. Just needed to clear my mind.
So when he called her 2 weeks later, she said, well, they have your hair, they have your fingerprints.
Is it true? I mean, I wasn't with you the day that little girl went missing.
And then he said, oh, well, I was in the house.
Mike, what have you done?
Nothing. I didn't touch that girl. You keep your mouth shut. Understand?
Mike, you gotta give yourself up. You gotta go in and explain. Clear this whole thing up.
She talked him into giving himself up. They advised him of his rights, and he said, well, I gotta tell you about the day that girl came up missing.
You want to lie?
No. I just want to clear this up.
And he said, oh, I just was looking at, houses because we were looking to buy a house.
I was just trying to see if anyone was around in the house I could talk to. And when I went inside, it was empty.
The detectives and sheriff said, we got to get this guy because he was in the Gere's house. We know he did it, but we'd have nothing to hold him on. This guy was a monster. And when they said this guy's a monster, another deputy said, wait a minute, there was a lady in Linwood that was raped by a monster. So they took the photo montage to her. She picked him out of the lineup. And so they had something to charge him with.
Mike Green, I'm arresting you for rape and unlawful imprisonment.
What? What? No, you can't do that. I didn't do anything.
He was charged with rape. He was convicted. He was sentenced to 7 years. But he's not talking about Brenda.
Where is he? Did he tell you where she is?
Where is he? Kill my baby, Joe!
You gotta calm down, Joe. Okay, he's not talking.
Then what the hell are you doing about it? Why aren't you charging him?
Let me alone with him for 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. We got him on a rape, okay? He's been identified by the victim. But he's not saying anything about Brenda. If we charge him now, okay, there's no body. It's all circumstantial. He will get off eventually. He will walk.
And after 3 months, and we still hadn't found Brenda, the boys were terrified to stay in that house. So we said, okay, we're going to move to Idaho.
Didn't save her away.
Joey said to me, Mom, he threw a bottle of vodka out in the field. He drank the whole bottle of vodka that morning, and he was totally wasted, inebriated.
Just put the gun down, honey. Joe.
Get her going.
He picked up the gun, he pointed it at me, and I thought he was going to shoot me, and I backed off, and he goes, the F word, and he pulled the trigger. And he slumped forward, and I screamed. I said, oh, God, why?
Seeing my father there in front of me, reality set in. I mean, that was it. It was over. And after that, I really didn't have a childhood. I had to grow up real fast. I had to be the man of the family.
We moved down to Carson City to be near my mom. I would get a call every year just to tell me that they still don't have enough evidence to charge Michael Green with Brenda's death. Until one day, I just had such a strong premonition. I prayed the Holy Mary. I prayed and prayed and prayed. I said, find my daughter, find my daughter.
Hello?
Elaine, are you free to talk?
Yes.
We found Brenda. We found her body.
He said we found Brenda's blanket 2 miles from Michael Green's house. And they were looking for a water line. They looked down and they saw, it looked like a human bone, a femur. They found bones scattered all over the area where animals had scattered her remains. They had sifted through the dirt, and they found her red pants. Her skull had an indentation on her head where he probably hit her and then took her out in the blanket from our house. So I think It knocked her out. And I think he was so angry, and I think that's why he probably knifed her.
Oh, my baby. Oh, my poor baby. He took her from the house. It was green. He was in the house that day. He took her.
I'm so sorry, Elaine.
We charged Michael Green with her murder, and we charged him with aggravated first-degree murder because it showed he had intent. When the prosecuting attorney summarized, he said, Brenda Gere met the Boogeyman on September 19th, 1985. She looked like this, and he held up a picture with her, a nuzzling little kitten. After she met the Boogeyman, this is what she looked like. And he held up life-size. He put all their bones out, her skeleton. And I had never seen that. And when I saw that, it felt like my guts were being ripped out. And I just bent over. And he said, this is what she looked like after she met the Boogeyman.
After the trial, we drove my sister's remains from Washington to California, where my dad was buried. It's a good feeling to know that they're buried together, him and his little girl.
You don't ever get over that. No. You just let little pieces of it out once in a while. And you bury it. Yeah. Later, somebody said sometimes they come back. The spirits come back. That little bird came out. He was just sitting there. I think about Brenda with love every single day. Nothing else. Always. My only daughter.